I'm a behavioral health community paramedic, but we really are focused on mental health and substance use related calls and being that bridge to get people connected to treatment. Fire, police, EMS, as a whole, that's who's dealing with this
Right.
crisis on the street level. But the really interesting thing is that's where the least amount of our training is.
This opioid crisis, 100,000 plus people every year dying of overdose, and started to wrap my head around it and learning that first responders a lot of times are the ones who are on that front line. They're seeing that same person maybe 2-3 times in a week who has died.
Nothing will drive your passion like when it's your child.
Recovery is possible, change is possible.
Yes.
But for a lot of people, they don't have the access to it.
You don't have to stay around me too long to figure out this is my passion,
Right.
right?
Well, hey guys, John Eklund, Living on Incline, sponsored by Recovery Live. I got Tara Tucker in house. So happy that we caught you and got you here. I know you're super busy as a paramedic, running around, changing lives, doing amazing things in your community. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself here on Living on Incline?
Sure. So my name's Tara Tucker. I'm a behavioral health community paramedic. Started out with a background in mental health and substance use, and then 2011 decided to go get my paramedic for some crazy odd reason, and saw the really big disconnect between behavioral health and the first responder world.
So
And
people know about paramedics. We know what a paramedic is. Somebody's riding around that ambulance, taking care of people, pulling people out of, on stretchers and doing CPR and all that kind of stuff. But so what's a behavioral health paramedic? What is that piece? Tell us about that.
so one is we don't drive an ambulance. We can, but we actually are in what we call quick response vehicles, which are SUVs typically, with all the same type of equipment as in an ambulance. But we really are focused on mental health and substance use related calls and being that bridge to get people connected to treatment. A lot of times people get dropped off at the emergency room, but it doesn't really address the true need related to mental health or substance use, or even those social determinants of health, because I think we know how important housing and food and all these other things are to maintaining
Health.
recovery and health overall, right? Like,
Holistic health. How
so it
about
really is looking at that whole person.
That's incredible. And this is fairly new. This is it's always been an issue, but it's kind of a new response to this struggle that we're having, this pandemic of drug addiction, opioid use. I know paramedics that I have worked with and talked with. We've had our Recovery Live ministry. We've hosted these breakfasts to bring in first responders, police officers, and all. And a lot of times, those are the folks who are seeing that opioid crisis firsthand, dealing with that stuff, having that first contact. Is that kind of how some of this got birthed?
It is. So you're right. Fire, police, EMS, as a whole, that's who's dealing with this
Right.
crisis on the street level. But the really interesting thing is that's where the least amount of our training is.
You see, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
How
So
much, like in paramedic school, how much are they getting? Like, we're going to train you up on how to deal with a mental health crisis,
there's been some studies that show in EMT class, like about 4 hours, in paramedic about 8 hours, but really that's all kind of
Out of how many hours?
specifications. Every program's a little different, but I mean it's
Hundreds and
it's
hundreds.
a lot of hours, and then you do like 500 hours of ride time in an ambulance, and then so many hours in hospital setting. So, but that's still the least amount. And if you have other paramedics that were trained that way teaching you, they still aren't strong in
Right.
behavioral health.
And they got their own personal stuff going on.
Right.
Which so just on a personal level, a lot of folks who are first responders that, this is me and the history that I have when I first started to kind of go, oh man, this opioid crisis, 100,000 plus people every year dying of overdose, and started to wrap my head around it and learning that first responders a lot of times are the ones who are on that front line. They're seeing that same person maybe 2-3 times in a week who has died, hitting them with Narcan, and talking to these folks and one, the trauma that they're dealing with, just because they're not just that, they're seeing all kinds of traumatic things, but also like the fatigue almost like a compassion fatigue where it's like, I keep saving the same person over and over and just, that mixed with the trauma, uh, to me, it's like a little bit nerve wracking to think, are we not only like creating training for folks who are first responders, but how are we helping first responders with their own stuff?
You're right, and both of those are things that I really have had a passion and work on because I do know this stuff from a different level, and I think that is really key. Um, Training our people and understanding what happens when somebody's given Narcan because I don't think people always think about that even on the medical side and how you put them into withdrawal. So they're going back. I used to hear the complaint all the time, like, oh, they're just reusing. We're going out to the same house 2, 3 times a day. Yes, but you've put them in precipitated withdrawal, so the only way that they can get rid of feeling really crappy is to go use again,
Mm.
right? We've been able to, in North Carolina in particular, we've been able to be a leader with doing Suboxone inductions in the field
Medically
after people
assisted.
overdose,
Mm.
right? And have that true medication.
Yeah.
I tell people like giving Narcan is like putting a Band-Aid on it. You're helping restore their breathing, but that does nothing for their addiction issue or their cravings, right?
So you're following up opioid response teams, starting to connect to the community, saying, "Hey, man, somebody who is in this state where they are dying and they are making these choices, but at the same time, it's a disease. We're seeing people, just the same people over and over. How are we preventing this? How are we responding in a way where it's not just a medical solution?" And you're leading the way on that. So that's why I really wanted you on Living on Incline, because you're not just a paramedic. You've said, what else can I do? I'm seeing needs. And instead of just going like, well, that's just the way the world works. That's the job. You're going like, how can we fill these gaps? And it's very personal to you. And so I want to get to know you a little bit. We were talking a little beforehand, and you have your own story. You were the mom. Like a soccer mom, right? You're the taking kids
Yeah.
here and there, working just for some in the medical field, and then all of a sudden recovery issues start to come home to you. Can you kind of tell us how that happened?
So I think my first personal interaction was a kid that had used to come to our house all the time. I'd pick him up on Fridays with my son. He would stay till Monday when I dropped him off at school, go on family vacations with us. And then back in 2016, he died of a heroin overdose. And it was the first time that it really hit home.
How old was he?
He was 20 at the time. But it was the first time it hit home that this is somebody I really know.
How did it impact you, like, in the moment?
There were lots of emotions with that, right? And obviously the whole what could I have done, like to help
Right.
this kid. He had moved away to another county and so I knew what we know now as adverse childhood experiences. He had those ACE scores, right? Mom who was in addiction and doing sex work, dad in prison. And it was like looking back, wow,
Mhm.
this kid really needed a lot more. And I remember I would help a lot the school resource officer, the school nurse, and we would all try to make sure he had school clothes and the things that he needed, and did what we could do then. But the environment does definitely play a lot.
And in that moment, you're just feeling, "What could I have done?" Feeling powerless.
Yeah, that whole helplessness, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And then as a parent, moving forward in your life, going along professionally, and having some more experiences.
yes, yes. So then I discovered it was my own child.
Mm.
And I've been passionate about this work. I've done this for 30 years. I've been passionate, but nothing will drive your passion like when it's your child. I still remember figuring it out late one Friday night. I was supposed to be on a plane the next morning with my best friend to go on a vacation and have fun. And it's like, what do I do? You know, I was able to turn into
What
that.
happened?
I turned into that clinician instead of mom, and
What news did you get?
I started. I just actually confronted him. I started figuring out there were some things that made me question. I ran into his stepmom that day, and I said, some things like, and we don't typically talk, but some things don't add up, right? And then another friend of mine came over to the house, and we were talking about it. She said, "Now that you say that, let me tell you some things. We lived in a small town,
Yeah.
right? So, um, and I just felt this urgency that I
You
need
kind
to
of
do
knew, but you almost didn't want to think about it, and all of a sudden, here it
who
comes.
thinks it's going to be their child, right? None of
Right.
us, especially as professionals, we
Right.
think that. Like I've done this, his entire life.
Yeah.
So
How old was he?
he was around 20 at that time. So
And you'd already had that experience.
right,
With,
right, yes,
Scary.
and actually, I put that kid's face on my cell phone on that lock screen because it was just that reminder. Like it hit home. I was working
yeah.
in EMS then, and it was just like, like this is not good. Um, and I remember when I started EMS, they said we're not going to do that behavioral health stuff here. I
Oh,
was
really? You're like, yeah, watch me.
okay, I finally get to get away from that, right? Like, sure.
Yeah.
God always like has a different
He
plan.
does. He kind of laughs at our
Put
plans,
me
doesn't
there.
he? So you're learning some things you didn't want to ever think about. That it's really coming home. It's a friend of a friend, and all of a sudden, it's your kid.
Yeah.
What steps did you take as a
So,
mom there?
I fortunately through this work, I had known those treatment providers. I was able to make phone calls and have him into treatment, into detox
Mhm.
within hours, which is not the typical norm for most families, especially back then. And I remember, like some of the reflection on that was every family needs to have it where it's this accessible, right?
That's your experience. You're going like, wait a minute.
Mm.
There's some people who don't have access like I have access, and instead of just going like, well, that's how the world works. Again, you're like, no, I wanna do something about
Oh yeah,
this.
like I have to fix this,
Yeah.
right? So that others have this whole same success story. I mean,
That's awesome.
we have a great success story. I'm expecting my first grandchild.
Come on now. I have mine. Solomon, we're gonna get some grandkid pictures going on in here. You got one. You got a kid coming.
Yeah, November 2nd.
Yeah, man. All
A
these
little girl.
Yeah, little girl
Yeah, we're
coming.
excited.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Exciting. Yeah.
Appreciate
So for this is your
This is the
second
first, my
first.
first.
All right.
my
Yeah,
first,
that's
so-
beautiful. Hey, Solomon, for this podcast, we got to put these babies
Yeah.
on screen,
Exactly.
because we're obnoxious like that. We're obnoxious grandparents like that. Absolutely. Well, congratulations. That's wonderful.
But it's just it like gives people hope, right? That
Mhm.
recovery's possible. He has a great job. He's married. They have a house. Like
So he's okay. He's doing okay.
he's doing great.
That's
right.
amazing. How old is he now?
He's 28 now.
So recovery is possible. Change is possible.
Yes,
But for a lot of people, they don't have the access to.
he's amazing. Like, one of the things I think I knew a lot before that, but I learned a lot through
Yeah.
our own personal story too. And that importance of family support. His dad and I didn't communicate, after our divorce, but that night I was like, you have to come. Like I just knew he needed both of us there.
Wow.
And that was one of the things that
So
he said,
stepmom, dad,
Yeah.
you, we're all going to work this together.
and girlfriend, his girlfriend at the time, who's now his wife, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, and
Takes a village.
And I mean, I think that was really important, right? That everybody came together when he needed it.
Can you speak to moms real quick? I mean, I know I want to get to the paramedic stuff and the amazing things you're doing very uniquely in your community, but I think it's an opportunity to just speak to a mom out there who's like, I got a kid out there who's struggling. What would you tell her?
Well, I had that actually last Saturday. I was at the office and my work phone rang, and I was like, do I answer this or not? But it was that mom on the other end whose son is still in active addiction. And like, can you go see him? Can you go try to find him? And really talking to her and giving her hope. And I said, I've been in your shoes, and I can tell you this, that I do know that change is possible, and I get to see it, right? And give her that hope because, so many people don't have that hope. Families,
Right.
we leave the families out a lot of time, but this story impacts everybody around him, their family, their friends. And that's one of the things I really try to do on that paramedic side is get those family the supports that they need as well. And, that mom's voice from when I started talking to her and by the time that I'd finished, like, I know God's allowed me to use that mom piece and experience to help other moms. I sit down with them and I spend that time because, as
There's that
moms, we love
connection.
our kids.
So it's important if there's a mom out there to just connect with somebody,
Oh, yeah.
talk about it,
Yes.
share it. Because a lot of it is like families tend to go like this. Don't talk about that stuff, man. Keep this. This is embarrassing. What's
Right.
happening?
Well, I actually had two grandfathers. Both my grandfathers were addicted to alcohol,
Oh wow.
and one parent talked about that some and how it affected her. The other one I never knew till I was in my 30s, and I got his death certificate, and that was the first time. And he lived right next door to me. We didn't talk about that at all.
Didn't talk about it.
Not at all. I never even knew, like, we didn't have alcohol in our house.
Oh.
And so I didn't even know
Didn't even know you had
that
that
I was
history.
seeing it,
Yeah.
you know?
Some family history there.
Oh
huh?
yeah. Every male pretty much in my family except for my dad.
Wow. So how long ago did you start this paramedic journey? Because you were working in some other professions, and how long ago? 10 years ago? No.
This episode is sponsored by Recovery Alive, a Christ-centered recovery movement helping people rebuild their lives, restore relationships, and renew their faith. Through safe recovery homes, life-changing support groups, and personalized coaching, Recovery Alive provides hope and a clear path forward for those battling addiction, mental health challenges, or life's toughest seasons. I've seen firsthand how this community changes lives, and yours could be next. Learn more at recoveryalive.com.
I was working in mental health and substance use in 2011, decided to go back to school to become a paramedic. And I really don't even that. I was thinking I'll go to PA school and be a psych PA. And I had a PA friend that said, you need to go do some medical stuff. You have all this behavioral health experience. She said, take a phlebotomy class or something. And I remember seeing her in the emergency department one day when I was doing my ride time as a student. She said, well, that's a little bigger than a phlebotomy class. I was like, I really don't even know how I got here.
Describe the job. Just describe what it looks like to be a paramedic on a typical week. I mean, if everybody I know who does this work, it's like, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah, and you have to be equipped to handle so much, right? It might be that somebody doesn't have their medication,
Yeah.
that they stub their toe. I really think a lot of those calls, there's something else underlying.
I just want somebody to care about me.
Somebody to talk to. I mean, they're hungry. You'd be surprised the calls we get.
I need a place to stay. I need to go to the hospital just for a place to stay.
And then obviously those traumatic calls too, where it might be that car accident or that shooting, or so it's
The hours.
the hours. Usually most paramedics, depending on how busy that system is, it's either a 12 or 24-hour shift.
Ugh.
So long hours.
No sleep.
Not a lot of sleep.
Not a lot of
Definitely not on shift. And then you got to wind down from that when you do get home. So it's
Right, you got you're jacked up on adrenaline. And then a lot of traumatic.
and then try to balance home life. with
Oh
that,
my gosh.
right? So
And what's out there for paramedics to receive some help themselves?
So that's another piece that I've been working on, even in our community, right? Because I know that. And last year I had a friend from another agency I used to work at that died by suicide, and he had 3 young boys. And so, as that mental health person, I always think about, it's not just the impact of that person, but that ripple effect of his coworkers, his family, I mean, his kids. Like it impacts everybody. So, and I know people don't always want to reach out because of that stigma, fear that somebody their job's going to find out. Are you going to take their job away? For those officers, are you going to take their weapon away?
Yeah. First responders, veterans, the culture is very like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, don't tell anybody. A good friend of mine who's a military pilot who was struggling with some mental health issues, like, I won't have a job anyway. They're not going to let a pilot be on any kind of mental health medication. And so it's just a tough place to have a mental health struggle. But it's also like a place where mental health issues are created.
Yes, for sure. And a lot of that is about culture, right? So starting to talk about these things at your agency. I've been fortunate that our training division has allowed me to talk about it on several occasions, whether it's to talk about trauma and the impact of trauma, or signs and symptoms of post-traumatic stress, and what are those resources? How do you get help? I saw that one of our community partners, that's a behavioral health provider, was doing a buddy check program for veterans.
That's cool.
So I said, can you do this for first responders?
Yes.
They said, absolutely.
Yes.
So we have that monthly support group now. I have another friend that's Native American that's a community partner too. And for a behavioral health agency. And I said, we need some more options. And he said, well, I'd be willing to do a peace circle, like for first responders.
Oh.
So we're working on that now. And then I have another holistic partner that does all kinds of things, from Ricky, has a salt room and all this. And she said, I want to create a support group. She saw the buddy check one, and she's like, I
Yeah.
want to do one for the first
See, and
responders.
that's what this is about. Like, one of the reasons I told Solomon, like, this is why we want to do this podcast, is it's not just the fact that you're here and you're doing some amazing things in your profession, but like, you're that kind of person. Living on Incline is the kind of person who says, I'm not just going to do my job. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these needs, fill these gaps, really go the extra mile. I'm almost like you wake up, Tara, and I've known you for a while. You're waking up every day going like, what else can I do? What other gap can I fill? What's a space right now where there's a lack and there's a need, and you're just like going after it, and there's an urgency to it. Where does that come from for you? Like, because it's extraordinary. It's different than most folks. Where does that come from? Where it's just like, I can't just watch this happen. I've got to do something. Where does that come from?
I've always had that strong internal drive, like to be the best at whatever I do. And I think when I saw that I learned both sides of the puzzle, right? Behavioral health and the 911 system and physical health, and how all that works. And it's like, I can see, I feel like God like gives me this vision, like from this 60,000 foot view of, if you take this piece and you put this piece, because it's like, I understand the funding pieces of it. I understand the barriers and how we could overcome that. I think a really big strength is pulling in community partners and understanding like why this is important for you and the next agency. It's different, right? Why it's important to DSS is different than the sheriff's office.
Well, you could almost say, like, I don't even know why I wasted my time learning this funding piece, and I don't know why I feel like I wasted my time in this industry because now I'm doing it. But you're going like, no, God prepared me
Oh yeah,
and to put all of these pieces together. I think perspective
yes.
is a big part of why you are able to kind of push a little bit further. Is you're like, no, like I was prepared for this exact situation, this moment.
I truly feel like it's my calling, and why, I say all the time, please don't give me any more knowledge, because then you have to use it, right? And it
Well, you
creates
would.
more
Yeah,
work,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's like working a big jigsaw puzzle without having the box to look at.
Mm.
And it's like, God will just lay this piece in, and it's like laid in my lap. And I'm like, okay, I know this piece goes somewhere. I'm not really sure where yet. Like he's opened some doors right now for some Native American piece. And it's like,
What is this?
how do you use a little country girl, right? With this accent from hours away to even think about working with that population? It's like, I know I don't know that, but he's opening the doors. I started getting some education with that, and really seeing the overdose rates for Native Americans was alarming to me. And it's like, oh, we're supposed to do something there. I even told Jeff that. I was like, I don't know what yet. I sent him a picture. I was in training. I said, I took this session because I don't know a lot about this, right? And I need to increase my knowledge.
So you see that again, one more struggle. You're going like, I'm not just going to read this and move on. I something needs to change here. And so right now, today, just talk us through, what does it mean to be that behavioral piece in the paramedic world? What are you doing? What partnerships are you pulling in? What unique things are you doing right now? And what I see is like, not a lot of other people are doing this. You guys are doing some incredible things. You got some incredible partnerships. What are some of the things you're doing?
One of the things that we started, it's been almost 2 years now, is a monthly mobile outreach. So I'm really big on meeting the people where they are and getting out into community and pulling everybody together to work together, because I know EMS can't do this alone. Yeah, I mean, as a therapist, you can't do it alone, right? It takes a whole, especially if you're going to address that whole person, it takes all of us. So that monthly outreach is people coming together. We actually do it in front of a church, and
What?
and love on people, right? Like, and offer services. Imagine like you could just go walk up at this event and say, I need a mental health appointment, and I can have you one tomorrow.
But
Like,
you're using faith-based partnerships.
well, it's all community partners.
That's
It's
so
public health. It's our behavioral health providers, adults and kid providers. The nursing students, they come and do blood pressures. I have another agency that does um, glucose checks, and if it's a diabetes nurse, if you
Wow.
need help getting your medicines, he gets you connected.
Total health.
Somebody that does HIV and STI and STI and Hep C testing right there
At that event.
at that event.
That's outreach.
Sometimes we have a haircut bus.
Oh, there we go.
We have clothing. It's
Wow.
just,
True outreach.
I mean,
Who's funding all this?
so a lot of that is just all of us funding as community partners. I did have an insurance company that came to me and said, "We like what you're doing. We'd like to give you $100,000." Who does that in our world, John?
Incredible.
Like
That's
you know the
incredible.
grant world,
But you're doing the right thing,
I mean, it's
and people are paying attention.
just loving on people. The other thing I think that's really cool we did this summer was I was able to reach out to Camp Rockfish and said, "Hey, can we work on a grant together that would use camp, but also pull in behavior health providers for kids that are already experiencing mental health or substance use issues?" And so the county ended up funding that with opioid dollars as early intervention strategy. We reached out to 2 schools because there's some important things with this. The 2 schools already have a connection back to a church at Erin Lakes. They're already doing things. So I didn't want these kids just to go to camp for a week and then they never see anybody again, but to be able to tie back into things in their community. The other thing was they only see first responders when it's something bad,
Right.
right? And I wanted them to know all these first responders in their community are safe people to talk to.
Beautiful.
So we had Fun Friday, and on Fun Friday, you had officers and paramedics that came and played sports with these kids, went and got on the boats and, like on the lake,
That's
climbing
awesome.
rock walls. And then we had Touch a Truck. Broken Chains came so they could touch a bike, and they love getting on the bikes and revving the engines. Imagine spraying a fire hose. Like these kids saw us. They had the armored vehicle from law enforcement. I will tell you, Fayetteville Police Department did an amazing job. They gave even 2 officers both of those weeks that were there the entire week. So those officers got to see some of the things with these kids from a different perspective they don't normally see. And
And the
really,
kids got to see the officers.
and the officer, yes, and like to see that, hey, we're not bad either, right? But the camp is Camp Heal, helping everyone achieve love, life, and laughter. And on the back of the shirt, we put the sponsors that we had, and it's just amazing to see all the different logos on there. And that wasn't everybody's, because people kept finding out about it and wanting to do a piece of it. So
Was a social worker, and I did a lot of casework early on. I think a lot of us who are social workers, that's where we started. And I would always, like, even when I was young, I'd just pulling my hair out because the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. There were so many good programs, but they didn't know each other. They weren't connected. And you have done something so unique and so special, and you're starting to pull all these folks together, and you're the hub. You're kind of the hub of that. And when people think of you, they're thinking like, hey, how can I get involved with, like, even just sitting here, I'm like, well, I want to get involved with this. And I think Recovery Live, you're a part of what we're doing at Erin Lake down there, but Broken Chains has been a big part of this partnership. And I think you ended up actually getting a motorcycle. Am I right? Did you end up?
thought a paramedic would have got a motorcycle.
You ended up
'cause
getting a
that's like-
motorcycle. Have you ever had one before?
no, sir.
And you went out and you just did it. What do you got?
I have a soft tail. I rode one weekend in a
Awesome.
parking lot, and the next weekend 600 miles because we were having a suicide prevention ride. Another one of our guys was getting baptized. I was like, I have to be there for that. And who does?
Never had really ridden a motorcycle.
I rode a dirt bike growing up.
It's a little different riding a Softail. It rode 600 miles on a permit.
I didn't even have that. yet.
We'll cut that
I didn't
part.
have that
You
yet.
you just went. Well, that
Go get
is
that.
awesome. That is amazing.
That's just God, because I'm telling you, I was nervous on the back of a motorcycle after working EMS.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I
Yes,
say it's
man.
such an amazing God piece.
Yeah.
Like, for him to take that anxiety away and actually drive one is crazy. My mom tells me all the time I'm gonna die on that motorcycle, and I said, well, you know where I'm going.
That's right.
So-
and it just, it's what, I think it's almost like the mascot of your connectedness. It's just how you have said, you know what, if this is the community I'm going to be involved with, then I'm going to immerse myself in this community. And there's just a joy to it, and there's a joy to you. And it just feels like the tip of the iceberg as far as like true, churches and faith organizations. We talk about outreach all the time, but like this is outreach on steroids,
Oh, yeah.
what you're doing.
I mean, like, because of all this experience, God's just let me see, like, we could do this, we could do that. Paramedics and bikers, who would have ever thought? Like, I mean, God really brought me to
Match
Fayetteville
made in heaven.
2.5 hours to work, and I had no clue why, but I truly believe
And you're still doing it.
I still do it. Drive down here to Fayetteville 3 days one week, 4 days the next. So I stay on the days. People don't realize how important their own bed is. I appreciate my own bed a lot more after doing this work. But like, this job is the most rewarding job. I've done a lot of jobs, and it's really rewarding because I've been able to connect people with broken chains, with Recovery Alive, and watching patients get saved, like that, and then get baptized. Like, I'm telling you, John,
At these outreach events.
when you say what drives you, what motivates you, like, there's nothing like that.
So somebody's coming to this event. They're getting holistic health, mental health.
Well, it's just from the 911 call. Like, I can connect. I can call Jeff. I get a release of information, of course.
Right,
Us sign and call Jeff, and I'm like, hey, this person needs to get connected and get plugged in, and so James participates in the outreach too. Imagine them, like,
So talk me through it. Somebody calls 911,
and so, like, our first one is really interesting, really great case. The paramedic, there was a young paramedic, and he had been in orientation with me. So you don't have to stay around me too long to figure out this is my passion.
Right. You'll tell.
And so he knew that from being in orientation with me for a few weeks. And this person had called 911 the day before. They had taken her to the emergency department, and she said the doctor kind of blew her off and said, so what are you going to do if you do get clean? Kind of deal. And she was still sick that next day, so she called again and got with this young paramedic, and he sent a referral into our system, but then he called me, and then he came by the office to make sure that I knew, and I was already at the hospital seeing her. So imagine that you get connected to somebody that quick, because people don't feel like in emergency rooms they really get heard, right, when it comes to addiction. And I'm here saying, hey, I'm here to help, kind of thing. And then I'm at her house, and it's like, I can get you connected with these things. And she was like, okay. And I'm telling you, one of the things with that is, this is how simple it can be. The person at Aaron Lake said, you can come to the church and there's tasks you can do so that you have something to do, right, when you're starting to crave or feel like
This is a person struggling with a substance use disorder.
Yes.
Listen, we're wrapping our head around this, all right? So a 911 call, a paramedic gets in touch with you. You're at the hospital, like, fast, within what, an hour or two?
Oh yeah.
You're talking to this lady, and then you're actually getting her connected because she's saying she has these needs to a church.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes. Right. And every church has got something you
That's
can do. Fold the bulletins, do something.
Because she's struggling with a substance use disorder.
Right. And people need connection. They need to stay busy, right? They need something to do.
So have you followed her all the way through?
Oh yeah. So 2 years clean now. There's
2 years clean.
Actually, a whole story that City View did between Jeff and I and her. And
Oh my gosh! I wonder if we can get pictures and stuff for the podcast. That's incredible. And so she going to recovery programs.
she has her peer support certificate.
Oh man! All right.
Yep.
That's
She
how it's
said,
done.
I wanted to give back like Tara gave to me. So
It all started with a 911 call.
all started with a 911 call. So imagine if we had all these folks in the 911 world, like, connecting people. It's like now we have a Recovery Alive paper with about 5 different meetings so they can go to. And one lady
That are carried on the trucks.
they're carried with us.
Yeah.
So we hand those out post-overdose response. We follow up with those. So you get Narcan and you get Recovery Alive. You get the Never Alone Use Alone hotline, because everybody's not ready to stop yet, right? I'm a realistic person as well. But I had one lady, I stopped after that camp week. I stopped by Recovery Alive because I was there dropping those kids off, and I said, let me go say hey to everybody. And I saw this lady in front of me, and I had just met her at the outreach that Thursday before.
Wow.
And she turned around and she said, I said, oh, I remember you. And she was having a panic attack because there was, so many people.
Yeah.
And I got her calmed down. She said, I came for the food because I was hungry. So when Recovery Alive doesn't always realize how important that food is, like, that is what gets some of our people
That's amazing.
there, because you can you can go get fed, right? You can have some child care. I
Have a
tell that to
dinner,
single
childcare.
moms.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to fix dinner one night. You can have somebody take care of your child while you work on your recovery. I mean, you know, so
Come on.
we don't think about all of these little pieces and how they add up. But I can tell you from that 911 side, people are looking for all these things.
Mm,
They don't have a clue how to get their needs met. They're not always met at the emergency department.
right.
So community partners are where it's at. And I know like community partners have different specialties, right? And different skill
Right.
sets. They have different funding pools. So if we all put our resources together, imagine
Mm.
like what we can really build.
We just got to stay connected and be open to all kinds of different ideas and thoughts. You're
Yes.
killing it, from 911 to the church to peer support specialist, 2 years clean. That's evidence. That's just the evidence that it's working. And we got to just do this in more communities, right? We just got to do it in more communities. How do we get the word out about this? How can we help you? What's if somebody's watching this or listening to this podcast, what's a way to like help you do what you're doing right now?
I mean, I think, you know, go to your first responder agencies. They don't know either. You got to remember that's
Right.
not. That's
Will you
not
go
been
talk
their
to them? Would you
specialty.
talk to people?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I go talk to first responder agencies anytime, and you know I've done this in different counties, and every community is a little different. You got to look at the resources and the culture for that particular county. But
Right.
you know, like I truly believe this is the bridge
Yeah.
to recovery and to that faith community. I mean, I think look how many churches are in our
Oh my
communities,
gosh, yeah.
and if we all partner together on these things, I mean.
That's the
It's
Romans
just
road.
it's
It's
amazing.
evangelistic. It's like this is where the highways and the byways are, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like to me, I'm like, why can everybody not see
No
this?
brainer. I know it. I know it. I see it all over you, Terry. You're a superstar. Thank you for taking time to just hang out here, and it makes sense. It's rational, logical, evidence-based, beautiful treatment work. It's faith-based. It's powerful, and it comes from your own passion and your own story. What a privilege. Thank you for what you're doing. And we're on Living on Incline with Tara Tucker. Thank you so much. Appreciate you hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Tara.
Hey, thanks again for joining us on Living on Incline, sponsored by Recovery Life. Would you do us a favor and just hit that subscribe button, share with your friends? And again, we want to explore our full God-given potential and see what we are capable of. So again, hit that subscribe button, and thank you so much for joining us on Living on Incline.